am in fact the mole.
The person who plays it is
You're expecting to host me a Big Brother.
Girl, I see past you.
Hey Survivor Durant, I'm Jaira Batulin. I'm the host of Survivor British
never
Columbia.
before seen game.
the reindeer games. This is Durant LRG's baby, and we're here to stay.
Do y'all feel good about everything since the game's ended?
Yes.
I've definitely
No.
thought about it at work, just brewing.
Just deconstructing it, just going
Just
with it.
unpacking it all.
I mean, I've even done that, so I get it.
The more I think about it, the more I want to redeem myself. I guess we can go ahead and start it just so.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much for being here for the post-game podcast for the Mole Season 1. I'm joined here with 4th place runner-up, Stormie Penn White. Thank you for being here. The runner-up of the season, Payton Brewer. And the Mole himself, Nate Hodson.
Boo.
You were just saying, Payton, unpacking everything. It took a while to do so. You had a lot of thoughts about the game. What do you have to say about the game?
It was stressful. And I think we can all agree. I'm sure.
Well,
Nate,
I wasn't stressed.
You wasn't. You were probably enjoying it, I'm sure. I know I was stressed. I basically had a little panic attack at one point, and I literally had to pray about it because it got to that point. I was like, why, Lord, take the stress away because this is a game. I'm supposed to have fun, and luckily after I prayed about it, I had peace, and I was like, okay, there's no stressing about it. I'm getting out on the next one. So that was my mindset the whole time. I was like, I'm out.
At what point in the game did that get for you? When was it where you started feeling all this pressure and this stress?
It was the second elimination when it went double. Mm-hmm. When you had double when Thomas and Mason went out. I thought, because you said, because I think I had asked Mason what his time was, and he said it was 3:30, 3:40, something like that, and whatever my time was 8 seconds away from 8 seconds faster than what he said. And I remember you said there was 3 people, mm-hmm. and it came down to 8 seconds, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it was either a coincidence or I was one of those bottom few and could have been out. And I think that's when I started panicking because you said, well, this isn't the last one. There was going to be a double elimination, and I was like, oh my gosh. And that's when I started getting lightheaded and felt like my heart was literally pounding out of my chest. And I was literally sitting right up on the AC unit, trying not to die. And I was trying to take deep breaths. I was as much as I could.
What is it about this game that does that to you?
I don't know, dude.
Is it just this game, or are there other?
I don't know if it was. I've been I get stressed out, but not that bad. Mm-hmm. At least for a game wise, if there was real life situations, of course I'm gonna be stressed out about it. But I don't think I've ever had a panic attack like that. Yeah. And I actually had to pray about it and get some peace about it because I was like, this is not good. I shouldn't be stressing out about it. But I did have a lot of fun. I don't know if you were that stressed out. I'm sure you probably wasn't as bad as me, but...
That's what I was on adrenaline rush. I was hyped up because I was am I going to get to go to the next round and keep this going? If not, I had a great time. But I also kind of went into it with I don't know what I'm doing. I've never watched the Mole. Yeah. I really just know that there is one, and I need to know who it is.
There is one, and it's not me.
Yeah. And I was kind of well, I'm going to give myself grace in that if I don't get very far, it's because I don't know that much about it. Yeah. But I'm going to have a good time while I'm doing it.
I was so stressed out that I couldn't eat the hot dogs.
Oh, no.
I shouldn't eat.
4 of them.
I didn't eat. You ate 4 of them?
4.
So you stress ate. I was the opposite. So you ate and I didn't eat anything.
I was also a stress eater. I was eating too. I don't know if y'all, there were a couple of rounds I was just chomping on chips. I don't know if y'all saw me.
I saw that.
Mason kept having food every time I saw him too. He was locked up. Yeah. I'm
Who, Mason?
Yes.
Well, Mason was out and he was just eating, but...
I know. He just was carrying food around.
Man just wanted to eat, I guess.
Man just wanted to eat.
How does this game compare to a Survivor game?
It's not really the challenges wasn't physical. I didn't think. Like, I mean, they were, but not like Survivor. Like, Survivor, it's going to be a lot more physical. Playing Survivor 2 was mentally challenging, but it wasn't as bad as this. I think what it was is this game motivates you to not only think outside the box, but in Survivor, you want to think of, like, what is that person thinking, but 10 times more. You know, it's like, what is this person thinking? Like, at one point in the game, Nate came over at the very end and was telling me, it's Abby, and it's 100% Abby. And what I thought was, I overthought it too much. I thought, Nate is so smart that he's a player and it's Timmy, and he's trying to direct me at Abby. And I was like, Abby's the one person that I don't think it is her. And I was like, this is Nate just trying to lock it up right here so he can win. And that's another thing, like, just overthinking everything. Which,
yeah, at the end, that was my problem too. Because
yes.
when you said who voted for who there at the end, like, we all agreed to vote on Nate.
During the last quiz chip.
Yeah, and then Nate voted for Payton. So my thoughts was, he's trying to make himself look like the mole, but he's not actually the mole. And because, like, why would you, like, intentionally put yourself out there saying, hey, I'm the mole, unless you were trying to get people to vote for you so that way they wouldn't be able to go.
It's interesting because Abby said the exact same thing yesterday during her interview. The only person it didn't fool was Timmy.
Yeah.
Or maybe she just wasn't overthinking it. Maybe she was just like, I'm here, I'm just going to keep voting the way I've been voting.
After Nate did that, Abby wanted to talk to me, which I didn't actually talk to Abby alone until that was like the first time. She was like, so you, like, what are your thoughts on this? And I thought she was trying to get me to say something that I didn't want to say, which she probably was, like, because everyone's wanting you to say something you don't want to say. She was like, so you saw what Nate just did there. Like, what are your thoughts on that? And I think she was honestly being honest, and I thought she was lying. Like, I thought she was trying to direct it. That's the thing of this game is you overthink it, and it's like she's actually being genuine and, like, not lying to me. And she was just wanting my thoughts and wanting to know, like, why Nate did that. And I was like, I can't really tell you. So I don't think I really said much.
Yeah, I feel like Abby was honest the entire game, but because I didn't trust a single person, I was like,
yeah, you didn't trust
lying,
me
you're
either.
Lying. I did not trust anybody, okay? Nobody was.
Well, there's a time that you two came together and you guys made a coalition. You guys were a duo. How did that form? How did that become about?
Okay, so the only reason why I even, like, somewhat trusted Peyton is because we had a deal that even if he ended up being the mole, he was going to buy me a steak. Okay? So
Yeah, and the same for you. If you were the mole, I was getting a steak too.
Yeah, so we kind of make this bet of, like, you're not the mole? No. Well, if you are, then you're going to buy me a steak and vice versa. So then we kind of knew, you know, that we could kind of trust each other from that point.
Yeah.
I think Peyton trusted me a little more than I trusted him, but no.
That's my problem. I trust people too much. When I shake hands with someone, and whether it's Survivor or whatever, I'm gonna be loyal, and I'm not usually gonna lie to your face. Like, if I say I'm gonna be honest with you, I'll be honest with you. And when you went out, because I did some of my answers towards the girls, most of my answers went towards Nate, like the ones that I wasn't sure, like, what the majority would be on. But, like, whatever the highest percentage was to vote, I voted. The first question is the mole, male or female, and I picked female because there was more females, and I'm like, that would be dumb of me if I don't actually know if it's Nate. Why would I pick that? Like, that was the better choice. And so I was thinking, she went out because she went heavy on Nate, and it's not Nate. Instead, in all honesty, she didn't even go towards Nate. She went a different route. And I didn't know that. That's the thing. I didn't know that. And
yeah, that's kind of the other half of the coalition is sharing who you're going in with on the quiz. So that way, if one person goes, you know who they went in on, and that you can rule out that person as a suspect.
That was a very last minute thing. I was like, I'm just going to risk it, and we're going to see what happens. this time it didn't go in my favor.
Very interesting because the round before that, in the final 6, you scored the best quiz of the game, going 8 for 11. And then immediately after that, decided to switch it, hard right turn, go all in on Abby, only got like 1 or 2 questions right and eliminated yourself. It sucks, but hindsight, right? And I will say that you guys have forever changed the mole, because going forward, I have to set a rule where people aren't allowed to make steak dinner deals. So kudos on that. There will be. Walk me through Jacob Gate.
I'll let you talk about it. Go first.
So, after the pepper challenge, Payton took me into the back room and we were just kind of talking. And since we were kind of on the same side, we decided we were just going to steer people in the wrong direction completely. Like, he was going to point them at me, and I was going to point them at him.
Yeah.
And I had, like, at some point in the game, I was suspicious that Payton was the mole. So,
but then you made the steak dinner deal, so
Right.
everything's chill.
Yes, and so I wasn't, but I already had all these like ideas of why I thought it was Payton, because there for a little while I was like, maybe it is Payton. So then it was easy for me to kind of point it. But then Jacob came and asked me directly, very bluntly, Payton told me you were the mole. And I was just a little caught off guard, and I definitely looked really shady answering it back. So that actually wasn't intentional. I wasn't intentionally trying to point it back at myself. I'm sure after me like fumbling over my words and trying to give an answer to him, he was like, she's definitely the mole. And so that wasn't like entirely intentional, but in a way it was, because we were gonna try to point people at us.
Yeah, that was the point of it, is to point it towards us, because I was so sure that because previously the last 2, I went all on, not all in, but mainly all in on Ronnie, and then he went out. And then I was like, man, it's got to be Kirk. And then I went like mainly on Kirk, and Kirk goes out. And at that point, I was in scrambles. So I was like, what's the best way to do this? Get someone to vote all towards me, because I know I'm not the mole. And I wasn't sure if she was. Is who do I pick to do this to? Yeah, it's got to be Jacob. It's got to be. And I was like, if we can convince Abby and them too, if we could make them look like we're the mole too, that would be perfect. Because that's a big part of the game that I realized was you want them to make you look like the mole. Because I had that thought was like, I'm not the mole, but if I can do shady stuff and make it look like I'm the mole, then everyone's going to vote towards me, and then they'll get out and I can move on forward. Because that's the point of the game, is to keep moving forward. And I felt bad. I'm sure you did too.
Yeah, I felt bad that I made him eat that really hot pepper too. And then right after that, we like tricked him without like.
Yeah.
Oh, I felt so bad, but
I
at the
liked
same
it.
time,
I'm not gonna lie.
But I'll be honest
It was
though,
it was fun.
I did not feel bad for him anymore. After when he got out, he was talking. I was like, bro, stop, you're out. But that's part of the game. Like, you have to come into the game realizing that you are probably going to be tricked. And that's why I didn't trust anybody, because I knew that was probably going to happen to me at some point if someone didn't even try to do that to me. But
And you were tricked by Abby, not directly. You tricked yourself in.
I remember you literally even said, because this has stuck to me a little bit too, is like you said, right before we were making that deal, you said, you got to go with your gut. That's what you told me in there, and you didn't go with your gut.
I know.
And neither did I at the end, so it kind of screwed us both. And that's one thing I learned, is you should go with your gut instincts. And whatever you're seeing, if you're seeing a lot of evidence on someone, like most of the time the mole is going to try the sabotage every single time. And I'm sure you probably tried to, at least once in every challenge, you probably tried to do something.
Okay, but how did you sabotage it when our faces were like trying to carry those ping pong balls? Were you just like intentionally like trying to move?
So, okay, yeah. I guess going into that on facial expressions, I was just not adjusting to your movements.
Okay.
So there were times that you would shift your weight, or you would like try to get taller, you'd get shorter, you would feel the ball move and you would compensate for it. And, if I was fully trying in that, I would try to adjust to it. And I was just extreme. You can probably tell this now. I was just extremely stiff.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of just kept my same position. And so, like, the ball was going to drop. It was gone. Like, I wasn't going to save it. There was not, I could have adjusted to it, but I was like, hey,
And there's something to be said in that challenge because you guys were the only pair to lose half of your ping pong balls during that challenge.
Mm-hmm. And I was like, what the heck? Abby and Timmy have gotten all of theirs, and we are, like, struggling. And I was like, people are going to think I'm the mole.
And they did. And
That's what you
Kirk
want.
went home because of it.
You want
Oh,
them
Kirk
to...
did?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was kind of thinking it was Nate, but then that challenge happened, and he's like, "There's a storm a brewing." Sent him home.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
And that gave me textile evidence to sling around too, which didn't hurt either.
What were some things that you guys learned along the way? So how did your strategy change as the day went on?
In the beginning, it was just mostly going on statistics for the voting process, and then as we got less and less people, that's kind of when I started. I wasn't going to approach anybody to team up, but when Payton approached me, I wasn't against it. So I learned I had to adapt to the fact that there's less people and that these questions are getting very specific. They weren't as specific in the beginning, a little bit more broad, and then now they're very specific that if you did have one person in mind. And now that all the guys were out and it was 3 girls, I still tried to somewhat go with statistics, but it's still, because it was so specific, I wish I would have stuck more to broad, like the way Payton was talking about, way of testing.
I would say that I did get a little lucky because I did a little too much voting towards one single person. But like I was saying earlier, a lot of my answers were if it was in the majority of it, I was going to do it. But if it was some kind of question that I didn't know, I either guessed or I'd write an answer to who I thought the mole was. And it usually was close to Nate. I had it narrowed down to thinking it was a male. Even then, you get in your head. And I would say what I learned the most was not to overstress it. And of course, use your head, but not overthink it either. Because overthinking causes you to create bad thoughts, the wrong thoughts, and
doubt.
create doubt. If I would have just done that and stayed more calm, I think I could have won it. But that's part of the game. You're gonna make mistakes. Everyone's gonna mess up, and I messed up at the last minute, and you were right there. You messed up too, and it's part of it. And I think you learn a lot from it, and that's part of learning. You learn from what you mess up on, and you try to do better.
And also we had a great first mole. Our first mole was fantastic, and who knows if we're ever going to have a mole that good again.
Mm-hmm.
I truly don't know if I've met my future moles yet, because I just knew in Nate. I just knew that he could do it, but for other people, I don't know. Maybe in the future, if you're ever given a chance to play again, maybe you'll do a whole lot better because you already know what to expect in the game.
Yeah.
You won't have a good as mole, to suss out. So
all I gotta say is, if I play again, be careful because I'm gonna be looking towards you, and I'm gonna be looking for any kind of out of the blue stuff, whenever your sister was having something wrong, and I was like, that is so random, but I was like, maybe there actually is something going on.
Wait, what?
So it was after you had just went out
okay.
and you left. Charlotte comes over to Nate, is like, Nate, I need to talk to you. There's something wrong with your sister or something going on with it's bad. And
I would have been like, why didn't you leave then?
yeah, I was like, I don't know why Charlotte just did that.
I was like,
Charlotte.
No, if it makes you feel better, I was genuinely concerned. I really thought that was real.
I thought it was so out of the blue that I thought it was real. I was like,
so I guess my reaction to that wasn't acting. I genuinely was like, oh crap, what just happened? In where that was real, which this is more context that I have that not everyone in the game had, is that she just had a baby. So I was like, oh god, did something happen to the baby, or something, or she having God, I mean, that's so much medical jargon there. You guess medical person here, but like post-pregnancy stuff. Like, I was like, oh Lord. So like, I was actually genuinely concerned, and then she was like, hey, nothing's wrong. I was like, oh my God, this was just about the mole? Are you serious?
That probably stressed you out even more.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie though, like that was something I was thinking about after when I like found out that you were officially the mole.
Mm-hmm.
That was so great for you to make her the production part of it, because then you don't have to always be the one talking to him.
Right.
He can go in with her too, and she can tell you, and it. Yeah. I was just like,
it was
so
so
be suspicious of husband and wife are
right.
talking.
Right.
Yeah,
It was
like
so
if it was
smooth.
if it was you to say something to him, then I would have been like, okay, there's something weird going on there.
Yeah.
But with her, it was like, I mean, that's normal.
Yeah.
And that's what's going to be tough for like future games. You know, for this first one, it's super smooth. For the second mole, if I have Mason on production and May Lisa's playing, like,
Yeah.
You'll just be looking like, what do you mean by that?
But I will say that because Nate did such a great job of being the mole, I don't see how I can't have Nate do some sort of mole training boot camp for future moles to sort of help get them prepared and think about things that they wouldn't ordinarily think about before a game of the mole would start. I think going forward, how we'll do it is whoever I decide to be the mole, I'm going to get Nate's feedback on, and then if they accept it, the three of us will be the only people in the world that knows who the mole is, and sort of try to train them, if that makes sense.
Train them in the way.
Yeah.
Nate, I've been wanting to ask you this question.
Shoot.
On the voting, where everyone voted you except for you, did you know Justin was going to tell who voted, or did you think it was going to be anonymous?
Candidly, I was prepared for both scenarios.
Okay.
There are two things that was going to happen there. Either A, it was going to be anonymous, and it was going to be really easy to point the finger at Payton, because me and Payton, which I think is correct in that scenario. Like, I think that's right. Like, I think if you logically step outside of that, whenever you're in the final five of this game, you should be playing for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're at the end game. And so, like, I think it logically made sense that me and Payton were playing that way. But, like, I wasn't sure if everyone would have thought that. And so I think it would have been real easy for me to point the finger at Payton and be like, he messed it up. That's nuts. Because, like, you would assume my motivation, I want the quiz chip. So it would be real easy if that was anonymous to say, Payton just wanted to ruin it for me. He's got to be the mole. That's crazy. He cost us $20.
I would have loved that.
Go on. Yeah, exactly. And then go counter to that. With it being revealed, the thought process is, and I said this, we did a podcast last night as well with the other two of the Final Four. But essentially, kind of my role in this game, it changed round to round. And every round, I was playing as what would Nate Hodson as a player, not the mole, but as a player, be doing in this round. And I did that every single round. And so I thought that it was logically feasible that Nate Hodson would do that at 5 as a player. And so I was like, either I thought I was fine either way, and that was a time where I could like take a chance like that. Early in the game, you take a chance like that, like that's just kind of weird. But at that point in the game, it was like, I think this is going to be confusing enough that like it's going to have a result that I want it to have. And so I guess the answer is I was prepared for both scenarios. I did think it was ultimately going to be anonymous, and I was incorrect about that, but I was still okay with it. Like, it was still gave me an avenue, an opportunity to play with. That's a long-winded answer. That's
Yeah, he thought it was anonymous.
Yeah.
In the quiz room when he came in there with me, he's like, oh, crap. And we were just like, it's okay, let's see what happens.
Yeah.
And then after the fact, when I got with him again, I was like, because you did that, everyone thinks that you're just a player trying to make a move. And he was like, yes! Thank God. So as a mistake on my part, I guess, to not tell the mole that it would be anonymous. But if you think about it, it would be unfair if it was anonymous, because the mole would have just done that 100 times out of 100. I'm glad that it worked out to ultimately not point at Nate, that it just made him look like he's a player, except for to Timmy. Timmy knew that was a mole move, but everyone else just took it as Nate being a player.
Right.
I think that goes into not letting yourself. I think almost all of us to not let it get in our head,
Mm-hmm.
and to go with the things that you're seeing over something that happens once. And then a lot of times Nate would, when he came up, it was down to the end, he came over to talk to me. I think it was over there. You came and talked to me 2 different times. And I think this was at maybe 6, final 5 or 6. I don't remember. But he was like, okay, so you and I clearly figured out the game. So you figured out a way to make it look like you were a player. And I thought that was really good. Is he came up, I don't think I ever told you, but he came over to me and said, you and I are thinking the same way, is how can we make it look like we're the mole instead of making it look like he is the mole, he made it look like he's playing. And that also confused me and got in my head, and I don't know, it's just so mentally draining.
Yeah, that was the theme of sabotage for this game of the mole for this first one. It wasn't just the mole go in and keep money out of the pot. It was the mole go in and create a lot of confusion, paranoia, and stress, and play a social game. It was supposed to be social sabotage, so contrary to what a typical mole would do. And next time, for the second mole, they're going to sabotage completely differently, depending on what traits best
for them.
Yeah, or them. Everyone would sabotage differently depending on the personality and what their strong suits are. And that was Nate's, and we played up on it, and it worked better than anticipated.
Mm-hmm.
If you were to play again, what would be some things that you would do differently?
I would just look at what's happening instead of getting in my head and trying to overthink it like I did. When he did that, of course, that's a very mole-ish thing to do. I also had the same way of answering from the very beginning, and I should have just stuck with that because that's what I innately knew was going on, and I changed it, and, that did me wrong. And so, because also, even when we had the money envelopes, and he automatically was like, I want to keep 0. Like, why would you? If you know...
That's what I'm saying, is like, he knew that that's a mole move, and that was one of the things I saw was like, that's like when I was really on to him and I was like, it's 100% Nate, before I ended up getting in my head and him. Like, it wasn't just me getting in my head, it was Nate too getting in my head. I was like, that is the most mole thing. I was like, I wanted to just take it out of his hand and put the 30, and that's why I was like, you don't need the 30, Abby, because you could get out. I'm going to give it to Nate so we can make 30 at least, because I know you're not the mole. And I was like, but it would make it look like I'm not the mole, and I know who the mole is, and I'm like, I'm not going to create this. It was a hard position to be in. It's like, I can ultimately know that we can easily lose 30, or I can just play it cool and know that we can lose 30, and just let Nate have the 0, or I cause a scene and make it clearly look like I'm not the mole and he is. I don't know. That's the hard part of this game, is finding what the correct solution is and what to say right. And I would say the biggest thing that I learned was go with my gut and not overthink everything. If you're seeing someone consistently, even if it's surface level, and that's the thing about Nate, he did a lot of things that was not surface level. It was some of the sly things that he said was, it would be like whenever we were trying to get money into the pot, he'd be like, he would want to go with the one that would risk it. But he was trying to make it seem like he wasn't over the top on the answer, you know what I'm talking about? Where you were probably sitting in that exact spot, and he was asking if we wanted to double the money and see, like, what was it, the question of, it was right when we made our deal. It was that time, whenever we...
Was it the charades game?
You're talking about the pardon. That's what you're talking about, right? Giving the pardon out to put $80 in the pot and give somebody exemption for the test. Is that what you're talking about? So
that was one of them that I saw you do.
Another one was the charades game, because...
It was the charades one is what I'm thinking of.
Keep 30 or go for 60.
Yes, and he was wanting to double it. I could tell he was wanting to, but he was trying to make sure he didn't say it and make it sound like he really wanted to. And so that's how I was like, that is a good mole move to make. And I should have went with my gut and stuck with it. Like the little signs, the little under the surface mole moves that not everyone sees. I guess that I was, because I was watching everyone's eyes, and I was trying to watch everyone's like facial expressions they were making. I wasn't ever really looking at you. Like whenever you were talking, I was trying to watch everyone's face, and I thought Nate's was the most trying to assert. And I knew Nate would play like that even if he wasn't the mole. He would do that anyway. He was the most like mole-ish acting under the surface person. All the other people seemed like they were pretty focused on you and saving the money. I learned to watch people's reactions and to watch their faces to see what they were trying to do. I think for half the time after Kirk went out, I watched Nate the most out of all of them because he was the one that I was thinking it was. And so when we were doing like the shirt game where we had the shirts, I was like, Nate is too smart at this not to be answering half these questions. And I could have been helping a little more, but I was also trying to watch him.
I think the biggest thing, just to your point though, is that like anything that I was trying, any action that I was going to take, I made sure that whatever action that was, like that it would also logically just make sense for me to do. And that goes to like where, I was also trying to think as a player. Like that was the biggest thing, is I was trying to every round think as a player. Like I'm going to use the pardon for example. I mean, you weren't talking about that, but you kind of go into that a little bit. The pardon, for example, like it legitimately did not make sense really for anyone's game but Abby for her to use the presidential pardon. Like, if you think about it from a logical perspective, like yeah, if it's $80 in the pot, but then she's giving the pass to Abby, and there's then a 25% chance you're going to go home.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I feel like that's a really logical thing for me to be like, I don't want to give you advice on this because I don't want to go home.
Yeah.
And so like, while there's a certain moral element to that where you're like, okay, you're trying to keep money out, which was true. I was trying to keep money out. But also there's a standpoint where it's like, if I'm a player, why would I want Abby to have an exemption pass when I'm about to take a quiz?
Yeah.
Like that's one less person that's going to go out. And so like I tried to make sure that everything I did, I could back up in evidence with logic. Mm-hmm. Anything that I'm going to say to somebody, anything that I'm going to factor in, I want to make sure that I have an evidence and a logic for it to where like it's a plausible ideal. That was a big part of a lot of that too, is I think if you sat down and thought about it, there was a logical reason for everything I was doing, whether I'm the mole or the player. Or at least that was my goal. Yeah. And so like I don't think that you should be beating yourself up too much, because I'm like, I at least, and maybe I'm biased because it was what I was doing, but like I'm like, I think that's logical for you to say, well, it also would make sense for him not to be the mole and do that.
When we were sitting at the table, and she had the chance to pocket 40,
yeah,
or we could have, well, first you asked us if we wanted to risk it and double the money for our answer to see if we got it right.
And that was 30 and 60. That was a different thing.
Yeah,
that was
a different thing.
Oh,
and then
okay.
hers is for the presidential pardon.
Mm-hmm.
She could have pardoned someone to add $80 into the pot.
Okay, I'm putting two things together as one thing.
And when she did that, whenever she gave Abby the pardon, I then tempted her to say, you can put 40 in the pot and keep 40. Yeah. And that's what she tried to do, but you guys vetoed it.
I'm sorry. I did that as a scene to honestly make it look like I didn't want her to pocket that. I wanted it to make it look like I'm like a mole move to make, if that makes sense. Like I was trying to make it look greedy, like in a greedy sense, which I don't know if it worked, but I know Abby didn't like it when I did that.
Hey, but it gave me the opportunity to get to watch y'all play rock, paper, scissors, so I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Nate, talk about the challenge that these two presented to you in the game in order to do your job as the mole.
So I will start with Payton. Payton's for me was honestly, it was guilt. I legitimately just felt bad because he was, and I was thankfully able to answer around it every time. He was real pointed about it, but he was just like, man, you cannot lie to me. Like, are you the mole? Like, you have
I was trying to guilt him into
it. And it legitimately worked. Like, I legitimately felt bad, but I found thankfully I found a way every time to escape that, at least to some degree, to where like I didn't have to hard and true like agree to anything or be like, yeah, I'm not the mole, you know, like so. But that made that really difficult because it was just like it ate on my conscience a little bit. Yeah, no, you're the only person I legitimately feel like, well, that's not true. I feel bad for Ronnie and Mason too. But like you three are the three that like I feel bad for like playing my role within the game, but also like it was my role to play within the game and I had to do it, you know, to make the game go. So for Payton, it was very, very personal. It was very guilty. Stormie, it's a little bit different answer. You know, a big part of my mole strategy is every round I was choosing people to have in-depth, relatively intimate, personal conversations about the game with. And there was a really good trend going where everybody that I was doing that with was going home. Anybody that I had that in-depth conversation with, bam, they're gone. Bam, they're gone. Bam, they're gone. And then I started doing that action with you, and you didn't go home. And then I was like, all right, I got to do it again. That obviously didn't work. I did it again. You didn't go home. And I was like, oh my gosh, I have to do it one more time. I did it with you again, and you didn't go home. And eventually, I just was like, screw it. Like, I'm trying, it's not working with her. I'm going to go on to somebody else. And the only other person that I did that with that survived it was Timmy. Well, and the only reason that she survived that, because like she bought, apparently per her quiz, bought everything I said, went full Jacob that round. Like she thought that was 6, by the way. Mm-hmm. She went full Jacob, but because of y'all's move, y'all made Jacob get 1 out of 1 correct on his quiz because he split his quiz amongst both of you.
So you guys saved Timmy from
so
going
you
home.
Saved Timmy, in a roundabout way, you saved Timmy. But all that to say, to where going back to the original question, like where you made my game difficult is you were the only person that was just not working with, like. Because I did play the game, even though obviously I was the mole, I did play the game like pretty close with you, even from the beginning. But you didn't ever take the bait, and so like I give you a lot of props for that, and that was challenging for me. It was like, well, why is she still in this game? Why will she not go out? And you know, props to you.
How do y'all feel about a Timmy win?
Good for Timmy. It was just funny to me because she played it just so nonchalant, like the entire game, that I honestly believed at one point she was the mole because of the fact that she wasn't taking notes. She was just chill. She wasn't getting out. And like, how do you not put any interest in investigating, like talking to people? Like she would just kind of sit and do her own thing and kind of stick to Abby for a majority of the game. So that led me to start thinking, you know, what if it's Timmy and, you know, Abby knows. And so that's why they're both still in the game. I feel like Timmy just kind of observed and got lucky, if that makes sense. You know, because she was just there to hang out from during the game. That's kind of my perspective for majority of the game. And then towards the end, I was like, you know, I could see Cheston choosing someone that acts like they don't really care, and like reality under the scenes when no one was really paying attention was actually sabotaging. And so that's when I started to like shift more towards the girls, because I was like, what if they're working together? What if Timmy knows it's Abby or vice versa and they're working together? So that was the only thing that tripped me there at the end that made me stop thinking as much towards Nate, because I mean I had him down, like I was, like as you said, I was answering those questions very, very closely, and so I'm a little frustrated about that she won, because I really thought she was the mole there for a second because of how casual she was. But again, I was also happy for her too. But coming from someone who's very competitive, it really was like, you know, I made it this far, let's just go big, let's win it, you know, and then to deceive myself. But I think part of that also comes with when you don't know the players' personalities that well when you're coming in, then you don't know what to expect. You don't know, like, oh, that is their personality. That's just how they are, and that's not anything weird. So to me, it was weird. But, you know, to anyone that knew Timmy, like Abby and other people that have played with her,
yeah, I didn't know that was the first time I met her.
Yeah, like they knew that was just her personality and how she was.
And it made it look like whenever they were saying that, oh, that's just Timmy's personality, it made it seem like it was like a lie.
Exactly,
like it really
yeah.
did. And I think that just goes right back to overthinking it and getting in your head, because I think the biggest enemy is yourself, is when you get in your own head. To answer your question, I'm not gonna lie, I was pretty mad. Like, I was beating myself up about it. I think I was more hard on myself than I was, because I mean, she beat me, like she did, fair and square. I was salty. I'm not gonna lie, I was mad at Nate because he deceived me. I was mad that she won without taking notes, and that's probably just my pettiness, and something that I've had to work on, is being competitive and being a sore loser. And I'm not gonna lie, it probably shown that I looked like I was pretty pissed about losing, and I was like, well, she beat me fair and square. But it definitely made me pretty salty that she won without taking notes. And whenever y'all looked in her notebook, it literally said, I don't even know what it was. It was way off topic on who.
I'm mad I didn't get the journal number I wanted.
It was that, and that honestly made me mad when I was like, really?
Like, that's what saved me, was having all of the information on everybody. Like, I literally wrote everything down, and like when it was asking those specific like questions, I was able to pinpoint.
And you can chalk it up to luck, but that only goes so far.
Right.
Like, maybe you got lucky for 3 or 4 rounds, but to survive a 9-round game, there's got to be something to that.
Right.
Like,
unless you're the mole.
Like, obviously, I think that the only thing we can chalk it up to is just everyone was just so stressed that they were just overthinking things, and Timmy was just cool, calm, and collected.
Yeah.
Is what we're going to have to chalk it up to.
Yeah.
If you could, like, I don't know, pick an animal that best identifies Timmy, Payton, what animal would you pick?
Why do I have to answer this? The first thing I thought of was something bad, and I'm not going to
Just say it. Say it.
I was thinking like a sloth. Very quiet, doesn't really move around much. Not in a bad sense, just like she's not really observing everyone, she's being really quiet.
Hey, a sloth.
And just hanging out, you know? She's just hanging out and she's enjoying her time in the tree.
Here's what Timmy said your animal was.
So, I was kind of shocked when I heard that people were trying to act suspicious. And I think Payton is one of the ones I was most shocked about, because I just thought he was a misogynist.
Wow.
I did not think he was suspicious. He came off a little rude, kind of like an asshole. And so... surprise. No, I think what really cemented the idea in my head was we were in the laundry room doing that one with putting the
You're doing
puzzles
the Great
together.
Escape. Yeah.
And like me and Abby were talking, and he'd be like, "Hey, listen to what I'm saying. Are you listening to me?" Like, he could not let us talk for a second amongst ourselves. Like, okay, all right, that's the type of person he is. So like, I don't want to be rude.
He probably didn't even mean anything by it. I think he just really wanted to prove that we could figure something out in there, even though we had nothing to really go on.
It felt more like, to me, that he wanted to prove he could figure things out. Yeah, well, I felt really bad. Like, at the end, like, when we were all talking about it, he was saying he was trying to act suspicious. I was like, that was the moment I was like, oh my god, he's not. He's not a misogynist. He's not. Okay, I did think he was a bit of an airhead. Too.
So to you, Payton evolved from a misogynist to an airhead.
Nate had this, like, friendly, like, golden retriever attitude. Like, he was, So like, I would have never suspected him. Like,
What animal would you compare Payton to?
well, now, I wouldn't, but I
What if you had to?
like a really aggressive chihuahua, like one, like, lost one of its eyes.
Your face does not look like you agree with that.
So, A one-eye aggressive chihuahua.
Okay, I was about to say, first off, she didn't name an animal, but until the end.
You're like, I'm just getting insulted right now.
I can't believe you played that.
I'm not
I
gonna,
love it. I think it's hilarious.
That's fair.
Aw.
Now
what animal is she?
Is she still a sloth?
Yeah, she's almost.
Just not a nice.
He's like, I don't feel bad about it now. She is a sloth.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I came off rude. I didn't mean to. I was just trying to help us, and maybe it did seem rude. I'm sorry. I didn't want to seem that way, but I guess I just didn't realize it.
Well, do you know Timmy that well? Like.
No.
Okay, so I mean, from someone that knows you and has played a lot of games with you, you just get passionate.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's just part of like your personality. Like it just kind of comes out probably as rude. And,
Yeah.
You know, and like I'm sure like Jacob probably has some ideas of me now, probably a line bitch, but I mean that's just part of the game. And sometimes like games do bring out high levels of personality types and attitudes.
You're right.
And, you know, outside of that, probably a fun guy, I'm sure. She would enjoy hanging out with you.
Yeah.
But during the games, you know, you are passionate, so you're just going off as rude.
I was rude. Okay. Yeah, sure.
Do you agree with sloth? Do you have another answer, Stormy?
I wasn't really thinking of an animal, but more of a character. I was thinking Eeyore.
I was
Because,
thinking that exact
you know,
same thing.
just
I was
kinda-
going to say Eeyore too.
Yes, just like chill to yourself.
Yeah.
Kind of like whatever attitude, you know.
Okay.
I don't think she was as depressing as Eeyore. She was kind of quiet, you know, like
Yeah.
Eeyore is.
Yeah,
so.
she can be her biggest enemy a lot of times. Like, she can be very self-deprecating.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that hopefully this was a good, like, maybe confidence booster for her that she probably needed.
Yeah.
No, and I will say, just getting to spend like more time with her, like last night. Like Timmy's really cool.
Oh yeah.
She's really cool.
Yeah. She laughed at my jokes, so
Yeah.
immediately I like her. So.
She didn't laugh at mine.
Yeah.
Maybe in a different setting. We'll try again.
No, but I had good conversations with her, like in game and stuff too. But also, like you're in a game, so sometimes that's not, per se genuine. But like last night, a very casual setting, just like this one. Like not Timmy's cool. I like Timmy, and I think.
I just
I
got
think-
calling her.
Huh? Yeah, and I think kind of to Justin's point, like I think this was like a really cool opportunity and like good confidence booster too, which I think is awesome.
I just feel bad that I made her seem that I was that way, and I don't want people to. I mean, who wants to be thought there of being a jerk, And even if it's a game, I shouldn't act like that. So, I'm sorry, Timmy, for.
You should also apologize to Jacob. We should probably both.
That's okay. No,
Oh, okay.
no, I'm just kidding. No, I'm sorry, Jacob.
Me too.
We are sorry.
That's the whole reason for me playing. He's like, I can't believe you played. It's because I wanted to get this out of the way. Because I know who Payton is. And first impressions or anything, this is Timmy and Peyton's first interaction with each other.
Right.
And I knew how Payton would take it. I knew Payton would be apologetic because I know Peyton's heart. And I want Timmy to know Peyton's heart. So I knew how he would receive it and would apologize. So when she listens to this, I know that she'll be like, oh, okay. He doesn't realize it in the game. He just gets super competitive or whatever. But no one's that level like Mason. So, you might be bad, but you're not Mason bad. So, at least that's something.
Yeah, that'll be something that I'll have to work on, I guess, and make sure that even if it's a game, I don't want to make it look like it's got to be all my way. So.
It's hard. I was telling Mason this the other day. I said, when I was in my early 20s, I was super, super competitive. Mm-hmm. And it just laid on my heart one day, and it took a lot of like praying and like just trying to seek God's heart in order to have some sort of change in mind. And I don't think that you're even close to where I was at. Like I was sinfully competitive. And God I felt spoke to me in a way where he was like, Chesson, if you lose, that just means someone else got to win. Mm-hmm. I thought that was so important. I was like,
yeah.
You're right. Like I don't have to win every time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, another thing is like, there's always going to be someone better than you, smarter than you, faster, stronger. And you just got to accept that. You got to know that you're not perfect. Act in the right way and not the wrong way, because it just sets a bad example for like her first impression of me. Even if it's a game, like she's gonna think, oh man, Peyton's a try hard and he's very arrogant and clearly doesn't care anyone but about himself, and it's got to be his way or the highway. And that I don't want that, because that's not who I am anymore, and I don't want to be seen that way. I want to be seen like how Jesus would act on it. And not a lot of people say that, but seriously, like.
And again, that's just because Timmy didn't know you.
Yeah.
Abby was in the same room, and Abby stuck up for you.
Yeah.
Abby said that's not him at all.
Right.
Timmy just doesn't know you.
I appreciate that, Abby. Thank you very much.
And, speaking of getting humbled, Kirk came in thinking he was going to sweep the thing.
Mm-hmm.
He played 3 times. Everyone else is a baby when it comes to the Mole. We don't know what we're doing. I'm trying to figure out how to host it. Y'all guys are trying to figure out how to play it. And I'm like, I don't know if I can let him play 3 times. What was it like playing with Kirk?
I thought it was fun. It's always fun playing with Kirk. He's got a big personality, and it's always entertaining, to say the least.
Gets along with everybody.
Mm-hmm.
It's nice having someone like that kind of, when the stress level is already high, that can kind of joke with you and kind of bring it down a little bit. So it's really nice.
And he probably figured that out, is not to stress out, not to get in your head or whatever, but...
He was stressing the most. You should have seen him take the quiz. He was...
I wish I could have.
Yeah.
I was like, how much coffee did this guy drink? He was going nuts. And what was crazy is he was like speeding through, going crazy, like ripping his journal pages because he's flipping through them so fast, writing down the answer, shaking, scratch, all this, all that. And then time 1:21. So that's pretty good. And then Stormie would come in just real careful, calm, get everything. Time 1:20. She beat his time and just did it with half the theatrics.
Yeah.
Did y'all ever think it was Kirk?
Oh, yeah. From the
bit.
beginning, I had him and Ronnie as, most likely, just because, Ronnie just seemed...
He just seems so stressed the whole time. Like,
and
literally
then,
the whole time.
Thinking, okay, well, Tristan knows Kirk. He's done a lot of games with him, and he would be someone that I would expect to have an idea of how to play that role, and so there for a while I thought it was kind of him, but... Well, I voted for him, and then he got out, and so I was like, well, that's obviously not him.
I did the same thing.
What was it like whenever Ronnie got eliminated?
I was like, no way! I felt so bad, too, because everyone, I guess, believed that he was it. Yeah. And I was like, well, there goes my whole game plan. Literally for half the game, he was the one I continued to vote for all the way up until he got eliminated. And so I was like, well, shoot. What am I going to do now?
I think this is really valuable for anybody that is new to LRGs but wants to come play, to understand maybe, what things to do to mentally prepare for that, get yourself in a good spot, because I was extremely surprised and impressed by your gameplay with you being a first-time LRG. I was like, you picked this up tremendously fast, and you were making a lot of very impressive moves that, like I said, I was extremely impressed by. So what is your strategic background? It's like, what things have you done that you thought you were able to strategically utilize and implement within your experience here?
I guess it just came down to a lot of just logic and observation, which actually are things that I used to not have. And I still struggle with observation sometimes, but knowing my weaknesses and telling myself that this is going to be a challenge, so you need to up that a notch and really focus on these things that you're normally not so strong in for a game that it's going to require these for you to do. So I would normally just kind of be oblivious to things, but instead I really honed in on observing constantly and wanting to not just stick to one thing. I tried a bunch of different tactics of who I talk to, when I talk to them, how I talk to them. But then I would also just kind of sit back and watch and just kind of see, who's doing what, who's not doing what. And then as far as the testing, I was just going a lot on statistics. And I would remember the kind of questions that were on the last quiz, and I would just say, okay, well, I didn't get eliminated, so I'm going to stick to those kinds of answers for the next quiz. But also, being a nurse, you have to constantly be critically thinking. Like, you always have to be looking outside of the box. It's never going to be like one answer because no human being is the same. So I always am having to look at different scenarios, different observations, different evidence pointing to certain things, and try to glue that together to make my own theory, idea, like hypothesis of what that is. And so being able to like have that skill from just my career and being able to apply it here of constantly thinking of everything that I have and trying to pinpoint a certain thing. And I came in thinking that I was going to be eliminated in the first round. But I was grateful for the experience and grateful to just get to play. Because, I mean, I'd hear about the Survivor games, so I was like, oh, that's so cool. I want to do that sometime, you know? And getting to come in and just kind of observing how other people reacted to things and how they interacted with each other. But also just wanting to get to know everybody because it's just fun. I'm a huge extrovert, so I want to talk to everybody. I want to know their life story. So.
I would have never had guessed or known that about you. And I feel like I failed you in a lot of ways. Like, you know, for years I've been known as the Survivor guy or whatever, and there'd be times where we've been struggling to get like new people to come play. So some people got to play 2 times, 3 times.
Girls.
Especially
girls.
Women. I don't host Survivor anymore. Like I gave that role over to Mason, so I can't like give you an opportunity to play. He can maybe one day.
2025.
Yeah. What could I have done differently to like let you know that you're welcome to come play a Survivor game? Who are the other Stormies out there that are all right under my nose this whole time that could have been playing that would want to do that? You know, but now since you're sort of involved with this, who are the people that you can tell people about this sort of stuff and bring in? So it's exciting to see things grow. And you never know. And I'm thankful that you gave it a shot. And I'm glad that you had a great time. And you're always welcome back. Same with you, Payton. Thank you guys so much for joining us for the post-game wrap-up of the Mole Season 1. We'll see y'all for Season 2.
Peace.
Awesome.